like and subscribe. Beyond Antarctica. Chapter 10. It's getting cold in here, Bick remarked, shivering slightly. It'll get far colder if we don't get this up and running soon, Tony replied as he worked feverishly. Suddenly, the lights flickered on. Nice, Bick commented. Yeah, we have a real problem here, Tony said. We took some damage. We simply don't have power up here. We need to go outside to see what it is. I can give us basic emergency lighting, but that's it. As the emergency lights flickered, they noticed the sediment around them settling. I only see a couple of sharks out there in the distance, Todd noted, looking out the porthole. Bick peered out, pointing upward at a few more. Yeah, at least they seem to have lost interest. It's a waste of time to go out and fix the power, Todd said, peering into the dimness. I can see we lost thrusters and all the wiring on this side. None of the lights on this side are working. I fear we're going to have to swim it. We were only about 250 feet deep. We tumbled down that embankment. We couldn't be more than 300 feet deep now, and maybe 200 yards from the Celeb Mariner. The water isn't rough today. Yeah, I think we can swim it. Tony looked up, shaking his head, and simply said, Nope. I know I can do it, and you're a better swimmer than I am. You'll be fine, Tony, Todd reassured him, but his gaze then shifted to Bick. It's Bick I'm worried about, he explained. So it would take approximately 10 minutes to ascend from 300 feet if you follow a safe ascent rate of 30 feet per minute, and we should not ascend faster than that. We'll take a brief pause at around 15 to 20 feet to help our bodies adjust to the pressure changes. As they suited up, Tony just sighed heavily and looked at Todd. You guys will have to go without me. What are you talking about? This is a cakewalk for you, Todd protested. I'll take my chances and wait until the sharks disperse, Tony responded firmly. There are only a couple out there I can see, Bick added, trying to reassure him. Todd argued, if we stay, we're guaranteed to die. At least we have a chance if we swim for it. Tony leaned back in his chair, pulling off his hoodie. Have I ever told you guys the story of how I got my scars? He looked up slowly, the dim light casting shadows on his face. I was surfing off Byron Bay on the coast of Australia. It was a good day. Waves were just right. I was paddling out, sitting, waiting for the perfect wave. That's when I saw a fin cutting through the water at high speed, heading right for me. Barely had time to react. I lifted my leg out of the way and flipped over my board just in time to see a massive great white bite my board in half. I was paddling furiously towards a rider on a jet ski, but then realized I was being dragged back. The other half of my board was acting like an anchor in the water. There I was, dangling in the water, my severed board bobbing like a bobber, me on a string, just like bait on a hook. As I frantically tried to untie the rope from my ankle, I saw it again, shooting straight up from the depths towards me. I managed to turn aside at the last second, narrowly missing its gaping mouth, or so I thought. It clamped down on the side of my face, dragging me upward, breaching the surface. It tossed me aside, ripping half my face off as it rolled and splashed back into the water. The last thing I remember was the lifeguard yelling, "I got you," as he hauled me onto the back of the jet ski. He paused, the memories vivid in his mind. Next thing I knew, I was waking up in the hospital. So, no thank you. I'm fine right here until it clears, he concluded. Bick tried to reassure Tony. You're covered in that slime. You should be fine, Tony. Tony, however, was firm in his decision. You can make all the points you like, but I'm sitting right here until I see no sharks. Todd and Bick exited the sub, following the protocols closely and ascending slowly. Todd was right. They were only roughly 200 yards away from the Celeb Mariner. As they made their approach to the Celeb Mariner, fins began to circle in the water. Despite the danger, Bick and Todd pressed on. They reached the ship without incident, and John, upon seeing them safe, immediately questioned, "Where's Tony?" Todd explained the situation. Kim, overhearing the conversation, "You left him alone." Her anger evident, she pushed Todd forcefully. "Go now, go get him." John intervened. "Kim, calm down. We're working on it." He directed the crew to prepare for a rescue operation. They moved the ship into place. Todd, coated in protective slime, dove back into the water with a cable to secure the sub. Bick shouts, "Sir, starboard," pointing at the massive fin of a megalodon slicing through the water. John's command was swift. "Double time, people." Get that sub on board now." As they worked frantically to retrieve the sub and its occupants, a second massive fin appeared, circling the ship menacingly. Finally, the sub was hoisted onto the deck. Kim rushed to the sub, the first to help Tony out. "Both of you, to the medbay now," as she pointed at Todd, who only managed to reply with a strained, "Yes, ma'am." "Bob, get us close to shore, and I mean yesterday," John shouted over the commotion, gripping the railing tightly as he steadied himself. Bob responded, maneuvering the ship swiftly. "Drop anchor over there," John commanded, pointing to a safe spot near the shore. John looked back. "At least we know the slime works," he remarked with a half-hearted chuckle. "Yeah, guess that's one bright spot, though I'd rather not rely on it," watching the fins in the distance disappear into the depths. "Just to be safe, let's sit here for a bit," John suggested. "I'll be in the med bay if anyone needs me." "You okay, John?" Bob asked, noticing the strain in the captain's voice. "Yeah, I'm just going to check on Tony and Todd," John replied. Bob settled back in his chair. "You had me worried, Captain," he muttered to himself as John left the bridge. In the med bay, John gathered everyone's attention. "Bob and some of the crew have been talking," John began, eyeing each person in the room. "They believe we've gathered enough evidence, pictures, artifacts to validate your theories, Vic. They think it's time we head home. Some of the crew have families waiting. Others are just scared." Todd immediately intervened. "But there's so much left to uncover. We don't even know the limits or boundaries of what we found." Bick, aligning with Todd's enthusiasm, added, "We've just acquired the ability to navigate open waters safely. We should take advantage of that and explore more." John nodded but countered, "That's exactly why Bob thinks we should try to find our way back. He's concerned about the crew's morale." Bick suggested, "Tell the men there's a $10 million bonus reward for those who vote to continue. That should change some minds." John shook his head slightly. "I don't think an offer of money will sway them this time, Bick. Many are scared, and fear can make people unpredictable. We need everyone on board with whatever decision we make." Kim then spoke up. "Why not just hold a vote and commit everyone to the decision made?" John sighed. "Democracy, I think it's beyond that now, Kim. Like I said, you can't predict what a scared human might do, then back them into a corner with no other choice but to go along. I rather not go that route, Kim," John replied. Tony, who had been listening intently, chimed in. "Captain, what are the pros of going home, really? We reunite with loved ones, sure, and yes, there's some extra money. But we'd be leaving a groundbreaking discovery for others to explore first." He looked directly at John, his expression serious. "Are you okay with someone else playing with your new toy first?" John paused, struck by Tony's words, then let out a slow breath. "Damn you, Tony. No vote needed. I'll make it clear to everyone. This is our discovery, and we are the ones who will explore it. Anyone not on board can get off on the beach. It's just 100 yards to starboard." Kim laughed lightly. "Wait, getting off and finding another ride was an option?" she said jokingly. "No, but really, hold a vote, Dad. Let the men feel like they had a choice at least. Don't go all dictator on them." She leaned up and gave him a hug. "You can come across a little cold at times," she teased lightly, stepping back to tend to Bick's wounds. John looked perplexed. "Like what?" Tony chuckled from his seat. "Asking your father to show compassion is like asking a cactus for a hug. You don't know who it'll hurt more." Laughter erupted around the room, lightening the atmosphere. All but John joined in, his expression softening slightly with a reluctant smile. "Yeah," John said, waving his hand dismissively as he turned towards the door. "I'll be on the bridge if anyone needs me." Todd leaned in. "So, after getting a good look at that vortex room and seeing the positions of those statues, Bick, I think I have a good idea what we need to do to the contraption," he said, his voice carrying a tone of excitement. Kim, who was tending to Bick's wounds, looked up with curiosity, accidentally pulling a bandage a little too tight. "Ouch!" Bick winced. "Sorry, oops," Kim apologized. Bick quickly filled Kim in on their findings. As Bick finished, he asked Todd, "You notice how he was holding the skull, eyes outward away from himself towards the little statues?" No, I did not," Todd interjected, interested. "Nice catch." Kim, intrigued, asked, "Do you have pictures?" Todd shook his head. "No. The only pics we have are the ones of the object in front of the pyramid. Here, Kim," tossing a phone at her. She catches it and says, "You did not get it wet, did you?" He says, "No, it never left the sub." They huddled around Kim as she shuffled through the pictures. "These are self-illuminating. Wow, this is high-tech, not like the other city we were at all," Kim observed. She pointed to the images, detailing the sequence. "Look at the markings. It shows clouds, then no clouds, then a sun, its rays hitting the ice and melting it." She spread out 3 more pictures. As the water rose, their city became increasingly flooded. Here, figures are moving to what looks like massive ships, heading to a land far away, climbing to the top of mountains. "And look here," she continued, pointing excitedly to another set of hieroglyphs. "It looks like they moved underground, allowing nature to reclaim the planet." Bick leaned in closer, his eyes tracing the intricate lines of the hieroglyphs. "Yeah, I think you're right." Todd nodded in agreement. "Wow, Kim, you've really opened my mind. This shows a civilization that lived out of harmony with its surroundings, causing too much ice to melt and flooding their cities. They decided to move underground, leaving the planet to recover." Kim held up another section of the hieroglyphs. "This last section is different, like the hieroglyphs on the staff in the city. I'm still trying to translate them. I can't make heads or tails out of the bottom rows. They seem like gibberish." Tony asks, "How old is this city anyhow?" Todd replied, "There's no way for us to accurately date this city with the equipment we have on hand. But that monument, it's far newer than anything else in the city, and the city itself is more advanced than anything I've seen." He paused, considering their earlier observations. That explains why it seemed so empty. They had time to strip the city of essentials. Kim's observation sparked a flurry of discussions among the group. She pointed excitedly at the images, her finger tracing the outlines of another hieroglyph. "Look at this one. See, it's depicted with streaks trailing behind it, almost as if it's flying or landing." Bick leaned in closer, squinting at the picture. "A cigar-shaped thingy, huh?" he mused aloud. Tony added, "That does look a bit like those old sci-fi movie rockets or a UFO, but in a hieroglyphic form. And you're right, Kim, it matches the symbol on the ground where we parked the sub." Todd scratched his head. "Well, or maybe it's symbolic, representing something else significant to their culture, or they were capable of flight." Kim nodded. "Exactly. And look at this sequence. It shows the clouds returning and the ice stopping its melt. This could depict some form of geoengineering or environmental recovery after they went underground." As the discussion continued, Bick raised a speculative brow. "You're hinting they're still around." Kim looked up, her face serious. "I'm not hinting at anything. This is not goodbye, nor the end. Until the story continues, my friends. B.N.Rocker.